If someone had told me the woman who felt nothing would cry for me, I'd have laughed. I never thought I'd marry her. Honestly, I didn't even expect her to know my name. Then Sloane Kincaid stepped into the bookstore where I worked, heels to sharp, coat to costly, eyes that claimed the city, and my life stopped belonging to me. She didn't look like a reader. She looked like the kind of woman who buys companies, signs contracts, shatters hearts, and never glances back. I was filing poetry when I spotted her. She stood there, all clean lines and cool poise, surveying the place as if it had insulted her. Then her eyes locked on me. "You're Ren Calloway," she said. Not a question, a statement. I straightened slowly. "Who's asking?" "Sloane Kincaid." The name landed in the air like a weight. Everyone knew it. Reese, CO, multimillionaire, untouchable. "Congratulations," I offered. Her mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. "I need a wife." I stared at her, blinked. "I'm sorry." "What? You heard me. Is this a prank?" "It's an opportunity." She stepped closer. Her perfume hit me. Dark, clean, expensive. She smelled like confidence and danger. "I need to be married by the end of the quarter to secure a merger. My team's scrambling. I don't have time to date. I don't trust strangers, and I certainly don't want a man." "And you thought me? You're discreet, smart, unattached. You work at a bookstore, which gives you flexibility. And according to your landlord, you're 3 months behind on rent." My jaw dropped. "You investigated me. I paid someone to." "Wow. That's not creepy at all." "Look, Calloway, I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you think this is insane, but I'm offering you $500,000, full health coverage, and a contract that guarantees your independence once the marriage ends. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. 1 year. That's it? No sex, no strings, just a name on paper. You'll have your own space, your own life. You just have to show up to events with me and smile when the cameras are on. And if I say no, then I asked someone else. I swallowed hard. She was serious. I could see it in her eyes. That cold, glittering steel beneath the surface. "Why me?" I asked. "Why not someone who actually fits in your world?" "Because people who fit want more, and I don't want to be wanted. I want to be married." I should have walked away. I should have laughed and told her she was out of her mind. But instead, I said, "Let me think about it." She gave me her card. Sleek, matte black, just her name. No number, no title, just Sloane Kincaid. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at my cracked ceiling and thought about my dead-end job, my overdue bills, my half-written manuscript collecting dust under the bed. I thought about her, too. Her voice, her eyes, the way she looked at me like she already owned me and was just waiting for me to admit it. The next day, I called. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. An hour later, a car picked me up. We signed the prenup that afternoon. Her lawyer, a man with zero personality and immaculate eyebrows, read through the terms. I'd be paid monthly. I'd attend 6 corporate events, 3 public interviews, and 1 week-long vacation in Italy for the final quarter. We'd share a penthouse, but not a bed. I'd get an allowance for clothes. She'd handle the rest. "You'll be photographed," the lawyer warned, speculated about. "You'll be expected to play the part." "And what part is that?" I asked the girl who married the Ice Queen and made her look human. "Charming," I muttered. Sloane watched me sign. She didn't blink. When it was done, she stood, extended her hand. "Welcome to the contract, Mrs. Kincaid." My pulse stuttered. "We're doing this." "We are." "You're insane." "You'll thank me." The wedding was private. To witnesses. No family. I wore a white dress she had delivered to my door. Simple, elegant, too expensive. She wore a suit that made me question everything I thought I liked about women. Sharp shoulders, slim waist, that mouth. We didn't kiss, just signed, just posed. Just stared at each other across a table like we were closing a deal, which I suppose we were. That night, I stood in her penthouse and realized how far I was from the life I knew. Marble floors, glass walls, wine I couldn't pronounce. Sloane handed me a key card. Your room's down the hall, left side. You have full access to the gym, kitchen, and pool. Don't answer the door unless it's the driver. Don't talk to the press. Don't fall in love. I snorted. Not a problem. Good? She paused. But pretend you did when the cameras are on. Naturally, Anne Calloway. Yeah, don't try to understand me. Just survive me. I went to my room, sat on the bed, stared at the dress, still clinging to my skin. Married to a woman who looked like a statue and spoke like a machine. But something about her, something deep beneath that armor, made my stomach twist. She didn't want love. She didn't want me. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't already wonder what her mouth tasted like when it wasn't busy making threats. And when I closed my eyes that night, the sound I heard wasn't her voice. It was my own, whispering the truth I didn't want to admit. This is going to ruin me. Living with Sloane Kincaid was like living in a museum curated by someone with no warmth and unlimited wealth. Everything in the penthouse gleamed. Marble counters, velvet chairs, art that probably cost more than my student debt. It was cold, immaculate, breathtaking. Like her, she barely spoke to me that first week. She left early, came home late, ate alone, worked in silence. Her presence was a shadow that moved from room to room, all sharp heels and clipped words. And yet, I couldn't stop watching her. The way she took her coffee, black, no sugar, always in the same white mug. The way she removed her earrings at the end of the day, slow, precise, like she was unraveling a version of herself no one else got to see. The way she touched nothing unless it was necessary, like even affection would be a waste of time. And still, every time she entered the room, my heart reacted like I was 12, and she was the girl I'd written poems about in secret. Stop staring, she said one morning, not looking up from her tablet. I'm not. I lied. Buttering toast I wasn't hungry for. I said, you are sorry. Hard not to when I live in a Vogue spread. Flattery won't shorten the contract. Not trying to shorten it, just trying to survive it. Then follow the rules, which are, don't get involved. You married me. Sloane. Bit late for that. She finally looked at me, those eyes so cool and unreadable. You're here because you were convenient. Let's not confuse survival with significance. My heart was thudding. You really don't believe in kindness, do you? I believe in control. Must be lonely. Lonely is efficient. I walked out before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I found a dress laid out on my bed, a note beside it. Charity Gala. Be ready by 6:30. Wear this. No red lipstick. It wasn't signed. Didn't have to be. I wore the dress. It fit like sin deep green silk, tight in all the places that made me feel powerful. When she saw me, she didn't say anything. She just handed me a diamond necklace and turned me toward the mirror. Hair up, she said, fingers brushing the nape of my neck. More dangerous that way. I caught her eyes in the reflection. Dangerous for who? She didn't answer. The gala was a blur of faces I didn't recognize. Compliments I didn't believe. Champagne I sipped to stay calm. Sloane's hand rested on my lower back all night. Light, possessive, practiced like she was reminding everyone in the room that I belonged to her. The cameras clicked. Her smile never cracked. I played the part, but the longer we stood side by side, the more I felt it. The tension beneath the silk and diamonds. The way her fingers lingered when they didn't need to. The way her body leaned just slightly into mine when we posed for photos. The way her voice dropped when she spoke into my ear. Low and smooth and completely unnecessary. Don't smile too wide, she said once. It'll look forced. Everything's forced, I replied. Exactly. When we got home, I kicked off the heels and dropped onto the couch. Do you enjoy pretending to care about people you'd clearly throw off a balcony? She poured herself a drink. It's an art. You're terrifying. You're impressed. I'm bored. She raised a brow. Then find a hobby. What about you? My hobby is making empires out of dust. You should try making something real. And you should try not falling in love. That stopped me. The room pulsed with silence. I'm not in love with you. Good. But you keep acting like you're daring me to be. Her gaze darkened. Careful, Calloway. Why? Afraid I might like you. Afraid you might think I'll like you back. She walked away, heels clicking like punctuation, and I sat there breathless, skin flushed, angry and confused and turned on in ways I didn't know how to explain. Later that night, I passed by her bedroom. The door was ajar. Her silhouette stood by the window, backlit by city lights, robe hanging loose, glass of scotch in hand. She looked like loneliness dressed in gold. She looked like danger. She looked like everything I wasn't supposed to want. I should have kept walking. Instead, I watched her until she turned. Her eyes met mine. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. I walked away. And when I lay in bed that night, the silence between us was louder than any words. I hated her. I craved her. I was starting to forget where one ended and the other began. The next week was a game I didn't know I was playing until I was already losing. Sloane didn't touch me, didn't look at me for longer than necessary, didn't speak unless it was about the schedule or the rules or which dress I'd be expected to wear to the next event. And yet everything she did screamed something else entirely. The way she moved through the apartment like she owned the air, the silence, even the space between our breaths. The way her eyes found mine when she thought I wasn't watching. The way she said my name, Calloway, like it was a warning and a promise all at once. We're having dinner with the chairman of Cortland Equity next Thursday, she said one morning, not looking up from her tablet. He's old money, conservative, wears something that makes me look respectable. So, not the red dress? I asked, biting into toast. Unless you want him to spontaneously combust. Maybe I do. She gave me a look, the kind that would shut down a lesser person. But I'd stopped being scared of her a long time ago. Now I just wanted to understand her. Or maybe I wanted to break her open. You always like this? I asked. Sharp, cold, impossible to impress. No, just with people who get too curious. So with everyone then. Exactly. And when do you let someone see the real you? She paused. When I forget, I have something to lose. That's convenient considering you never forget anything. Exactly. She walked away before I could respond. I should have left it alone, but I didn't. That night, I waited for her to come home. She was later than usual. Hair windswept from the rain, heels slick with water. She looked exhausted. Beautiful. Unreachable. Rough day, I asked. You have no idea. Try me. She slipped off her coat, revealing a dark silk blouse clinging to her skin. People expect me to be two things at once. Soft enough to charm them, hard enough to control them. You're very good at the second one. And the first, I haven't seen it yet. That's because you're not supposed to. I stood from the couch, crossed to her slowly. And what if I want to? Her breath caught just slightly. Then I'd say that's dangerous. For who? I asked again. She didn't answer. I stepped closer. We've been living in the same space for weeks now, sharing headlines, dinner tables, lies. I know what your perfume smells like when it fades. I know you leave one light on in your room when you sleep. I know you like red wine, but pretend to prefer white because your clients expect it. I know you, Sloane. At least a little. You know the version. I let you see. Then let me see more. Her jaw tightened. You're my wife on paper. That's all. That's not all. And you know it. She stepped forward, eyes dark. Dangerous. don't push me." "Why not?" "Because if I start wanting you," she said, voice low, "I won't be able to stop." The silence cracked like thunder between us, and for a second, I thought she'd kiss me. Thought I'd let her. Thought I'd beg for it. But instead, she turned and walked to the window. I exhaled. My hands trembled. She didn't look at me for the rest of the night. But when she left for work the next morning, there was coffee waiting for me. Just the way I liked it. No note, no acknowledgement, but it was enough. That day, I couldn't stop thinking about her. About the way she said wanting you like it was a curse. Like needing me was something she feared more than failure. That night, we had to attend a museum gala. High society, too much perfume, endless cameras. I wore a black dress with thin straps and a slit that showed just enough. When she saw me, something in her expression flickered almost hunger. She didn't comment, just offered her arm. "Try not to look bored," she murmured as we entered. "Then say something interesting. You like provoking me. You make it so easy." Her hand found the small of my back as we walked in. She introduced me to donors, curators, politicians. I smiled. I laughed. I played the role. And the whole time I felt her watching me like she was waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. Not until the end of the night when we were alone again in the car. The silence was thick. Her thigh pressed lightly against mine. Her hand rested on the leather between us, not touching me, but so close I could feel the heat. "You are good tonight," she said finally. "Good, charming, controlled. You looked." She stopped herself. "What?" "Like someone who doesn't belong to anyone, and I didn't like that." "Why?" "Because you're wearing my ring." I turned toward her, heart pounding. "Then act like it means something." "I'm trying not to." "Why?" "Because I want to keep this clean. It's already messy. It doesn't have to be. It already is." She looked at me then, eyes burning. And when she leaned in barely cautiously, I didn't pull away. But she didn't kiss me. Just looked like she was memorizing the shape of me. And then as quickly as she leaned in, she pulled back. "Good night, Calloway." "Coward," I whispered. She didn't reply, but her hands were trembling. The thing about silence is that it's never really silent. Not when you're sharing it with someone you can't stop wanting. After that night in the car, everything between us changed. Not outwardly. She still barely spoke to me in the mornings. Still sent me texts that read like directives instead of invitations. Still walked past me like I was air when her phone rang. But the air between us was charged now, tighter, hungrier. She looked at me longer. I looked back harder. One night, I was curled up on the couch reading when she came in from a dinner meeting. She wore a navy suit that fit like it had been built around her. Her hair was up. Her lipstick faintly faded. She looked like a weapon. "You're home early," I said, not looking up from the page. "Deal closed faster than expected." "That happen often?" "No, must be my lucky night." She poured herself a drink, didn't answer. I kept reading, or pretended to. She sat across from me, kicked off her heels, undid the first button of her shirt. I looked up. Her eyes were already on me. "Is there a reason you've been avoiding me all week?" I asked. "I haven't. Right? Just strategic absence." "I'm giving you space." "What if I don't want space?" "Then you're more dangerous than I thought, and you're more scared than you pretend to be." She stood, walked over slowly. I sat up, heart hammering. She stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could smell her perfume. "This wasn't part of the agreement," she said. Neither was looking at me like that. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. "You're not helping." "I'm not trying to." Her hand brushed my jaw, barely there. My whole body lit up. "Ren," she said, voice low, like it was breaking through something. "Yes, tell me to stop." "No, tell me this isn't a mistake." "It's already too late." She leaned down, kissed me, and everything exploded. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was raw and fierce and desperate, like she'd been holding it in for weeks. like I was the only thing she'd ever wanted and was finally letting herself have. I pulled her closer. She climbed into my lap. Her hands were in my hair on my waist, gripping like she didn't trust herself to let go. This changes everything. I breathed against her mouth. I know. Are you ready for that? No. Good. Because neither was I, but we kissed anyway, again and again. And when she finally pulled away, eyes glassy, breath uneven, she whispered, "We can't do this again. You're going to lie to me right after kissing me like that. This can't happen again." "Sure, I mean it." "Okay, stop smiling then. Stop looking at me like I'm the end of the world." She backed away. "We made a deal. Deals change. Not mine." "Then why are your hands still shaking?" She didn't answer, just turned and walked to her room. But she didn't close the door. That night, I lay awake listening to the sound of her pacing back and forth over and over like she could walk off the need, the guilt, the truth. But she couldn't. And I knew then she could pretend all she wanted. But she wanted me. She just didn't know how to let herself have anything real. The next morning, she was gone before I woke. But there was a note on the counter. Just one sentence. "Tonight, 8 p.m. where something read." I stared at it, heart racing. A command, a test, a promise. I didn't know which, but I knew I'd show up. And I knew something between us had just broken or begun. At 7:59 p.m., I stepped into the hallway in a red satin dress that felt like it was made of sin. It clung to my hips, exposed just enough of my back to make Sloane's breath catch when she saw me, and made me feel powerful in a way I hadn't felt since before all this began. She was already waiting by the door, dressed in a black tuxedo that made her look like a sin herself. Her hair was slicked back, her lipstick dark, her expression unreadable, except for her eyes. They didn't move from me once. "You look," she started, then stopped. "Dangerous?" I offered. "Yes," she said. "Exactly." She opened the car door for me, didn't touch me, but her hand lingered near my lower back for a fraction too long. I said nothing. She didn't either. But the air between us felt heavy. The event was a charity dinner at a rooftop hotel, glass and gold everywhere and people with brittle, practiced laughs who looked at Sloane like she belonged to a different species. She played her part. Elegant, razor-sharp, yet she never drifted far from me. Her hand found mine for the first time when an older man with an obvious agenda and a condescending smile stepped up. She didn't say a word when his eyes lingered on me too long. She simply slid her fingers between mine tight, claiming. When he moved on, she leaned to my ear, voice low. "You shouldn't wear that dress if you want me to behave." "I don't want you to behave." "Careful. Calloway. Make me." Her grip tightened, but she said nothing. Not then. Not until we were back in the car, the driver silent, the city blurring past the windows. She didn't speak, didn't move, stared straight ahead, and still her thigh pressed into mine like intention, like she was daring me to go first. I didn't. Not a word. Not until the elevator doors closed and we were finally alone. The silence between us a live wire. "Say it," I whispered. She turned her head slowly. "Say what? That you want me?" "I don't." "Liar. You think this is a game?" "No. I think it's the first thing you haven't been able to control." She stepped forward. The elevator doors opened, but neither of us moved. "I'm trying not to ruin you," she said. "You already have." I pushed the button to close the doors, and then I kissed her. Or maybe she kissed me. I didn't know who moved first. It didn't matter. The moment our mouths met, everything else fell away. She slammed me against the wall, hands in my hair, her lips hungry, punishing, desperate. I moaned into her mouth, pulled her closer, and the sound she made when my hands slid under her jacket was almost a growl. "Sloane," I gasped. "Tell me to stop. Don't you dare." We stumbled into the penthouse, kissing like we'd been starving. Clothes hit the floor, her jacket my heels, her tie undone with shaking fingers. She lifted me onto the counter, pushed my legs apart, and looked at me like I was made of something sacred and forbidden at once. "You're not just beautiful," she said, voice ragged. "You're dangerous. So are you. But I've spent my whole life pretending I'm not." "Then don't pretend tonight." She didn't. She touched me like she already knew my body, like every inch of me had been haunting her for weeks. I pulled her shirt open, kissed down the line of her throat, felt her shudder when I whispered, "This doesn't feel like pretending." "It's not then. What is it?" "A mistake I want to keep making." We didn't make it to the bedroom. The marble floor, the rug in front of the fireplace, the wall beside the windows. We left pieces of ourselves in every corner of that space. She was rough, then gentle, then rough again. I gave as much as I took. When she finally collapsed beside me, chest rising and falling, skin damp with sweat, she didn't say anything. I turned to her, touched her face. "This changes everything." She closed her eyes. "I know. Are you going to pretend it didn't happen?" "I want to, but I can't." I leaned down, kissed her again, softer, slower, this time with feeling. She kissed me back like she hated herself for it. And when she pulled away, she whispered, "Don't fall in love with me." Too late. She flinched, but didn't run. And that was something. That was everything. The morning after, I woke up alone. Her side of the couch was cold. My dress was draped over the armchair, neatly folded. My earrings were on the counter, and Sloane was gone. No note, no message, no sign of her in the kitchen or her room, just silence. I made coffee anyway, drank it in one of the overpriced mugs she kept in rows like museum pieces, and tried not to think about how her mouth felt on my neck. I failed. I tried not to remember the way she looked at me when she was inside me, like I was the only thing in her world that made sense. I failed harder. At noon, she texted, "Working late. Don't wait up." That was all. No mention of what happened. No acknowledgement. Just business as usual. Except nothing felt usual now. Not the way her perfume lingered in the air. Not the way my body still had for her. Not the way every room in this apartment suddenly felt smaller, tighter. I spent the day trying to distract myself. Cleaned. Reread old poetry I used to love. Went through the kitchen cabinets and labeled everything out of spite. And when night came, I didn't wake up. But I didn't sleep either. I heard her come in just after 1. I heard her pause by the couch. I heard the rustle of her jacket. The soft sigh. She always tried to hold back when she was tired. I almost called out. I didn't. The next morning, she was sitting at the table reading the paper like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't touched me in every way a person could be touched. "Morning," I said, grabbing a cup. She glanced up. "Morning. Sleep well?" "Fine. Anything exciting in the financial section?" "Only if you find international stocks thrilling, riveting." I sat down. The silence stretched. Finally, I said, "Are we just not going to talk about it?" She didn't look up. "Talk about what?" "Don't insult me. It was a mistake. Try again." "A lapse in judgment." "Sloane, you knew the rules." "The rules changed." "No, you changed them." "We both did." She looked at me then. Her eyes were sharp, but not cold, just tired. "I told you not to fall in love with me. You told me a lot of things. None of them felt true when your mouth was on mine." She flinched. "That shouldn't have happened. But it did. And it can't happen again." "You don't believe that." "I have to." I walked to her side of the table. "Why?" "Because you're afraid I might start meaning something. Because you already do." Her voice cracked, just barely, but it was enough. I reached out. She didn't stop me. My fingers brushed her cheek. Her eyes closed. "Then stop pretending you don't feel this," I whispered. "I feel it," she said. "That's the problem." "So what?" "We just keep pretending we're strangers who happen to share a name." "I don't know how to be anything else." "Then learn or let me go." "I can't let you go." I pulled back, then stopped punishing me for being the one thing you didn't plan. She didn't answer, and I didn't push. I walked away. That night she didn't come home. I waited, watched the clock tick past midnight, past 1, past 2. I gave up at 3 o'clock, fell asleep on the couch. When I woke up, she was in the kitchen barefoot, still in her suit from the night before. Her hair was undone. Her eyes were red. "You didn't sleep," I said. "Neither did you. Where were you driving?" "All night trying to figure out if I'm brave enough to want you out loud." I stood, my chest HAD. "And I'm not," she whispered. "Not yet. That's honest. I don't want to lie to you anymore. Then start telling the truth." She walked toward me, slow, careful. "The truth is I don't know how to be soft without falling apart." "Then fall apart. I'll be here." Her hands bound my waist. Her forehead rested against mine. "I want to want you quietly, but I never do. Good? I want to go back to before." "You can't." "I know." And when she kissed me again, it was softer this time. No fire, just steak, just truth. We didn't sleep together that night. We just lay in bed, fully clothed, our fingers intertwined. Her breathing was uneven. Mine, too. But she didn't let go. And neither did I after that night. Something shifted. We didn't speak about what we were. But Sloane stopped running. She started coming home earlier. She brought me coffee in the mornings, sometimes without saying a word. Just sliding the mug toward me with eyes that lingered too long. She didn't kiss me again for days. But she touched me in other ways. Her fingers brushing mine when we passed in the kitchen. Her hand resting on the small of my back at events. Her gaze lingering when she thought I wasn't watching. I always was, and I saw everything. The tension in her jaw when someone flirted with me. The way her body leaned closer when I laughed too loudly at someone else's joke. The way her hand tightened on my waist just slightly when cameras flashed. Possessive, careful, afraid. I didn't push, but I felt it deep in my bones. She was slipping closer to me, and it terrified her. One evening, we came home from a black tie fundraiser, and she didn't say a word. Just tossed her clutch onto the kitchen island, pulled off her earrings, and poured herself a drink. I leaned against the counter. "Want to talk about it?" She took a long sip. "There's nothing to talk about. You've been tense all night." "I'm always tense. Not like this." "Drop it, Calloway." "I didn't." "Is it because of the woman who called me your trophy wife in front of the board?" Her eyes flashed. "She's irrelevant. You didn't say anything because if I had, I'd have ruined the merger. So, you let her insult me. I protected you by pretending I don't matter." "You matter," she said, voice low and sharp. "More than you should." That stopped me. "Then say it." She looked at me. Her mask cracked. "I can't." "Why?" "Because the second I say it, it becomes real. And if it's real, I can lose it." "You can lose me anyway, Sloane. Every time you stay quiet, every time you pull away, you make it harder to stay." She set her glass down, "Then leave." The words hit like ice, but her eyes betrayed her. She didn't mean it. She was scared of love, of needing, of me. "No," I said. "I'm not walking away just because you're afraid. I don't need you to save me. I'm not trying to. I just want you to meet me. And if I don't know how, then try." She stared at me, then crossed the space between us and kissed me like an apology. Like a confession. Like maybe she was starting to believe she was allowed to want something more. We didn't speak again that night, but we made love slowly. Not like the first time. Wild and desperate. This time it was soft, intentional. Her fingers traced every inch of me like she was memorizing it. Her mouth moved over mine like she had something to say, but didn't know the words yet. And when she came undone against me, trembling, she whispered my name like a prayer. Afterward, she curled into me, her body tight, her breath uneven. "You scare me," she said. I brushed hair from her face. "Because I see you. Because you make me want to be seen. That's not a bad thing. It is when you've spent your whole life hiding behind power. You're more than power. You're the only one who's ever believed that. I kissed her temple. Maybe it's time you start believing it, too. In the days that followed, something new bloomed. She invited me to meetings, introduced me not just as her wife, but as someone she trusted. She asked my opinion. She listened. She left. And then one morning she asked me to travel with her. It's a weekend trip, she said, eyes flicking away. The Hamptons, just us. No press. No obligations. You sure? I want you there. Why? Because when I think about that house being empty, it makes me a check, and that scares the hell out of me. I touched her hand. Then let's go. She nodded, but I saw it in her eyes. The fear was still there, real quiet, but she was trying for me, for us. And maybe, just maybe, that meant we had a chance, not just to survive this marriage, but to turn it into something true. The Hamptons were too quiet, too beautiful, too far from the sharp, calculated world Sloane used to control everything. The house was massive, all glass and ocean breeze and white linen furniture. I was afraid to sit on, but the moment we stepped through the door, something in her shifted. Her shoulders lowered, her voice softened. She took off her heels and walked barefoot across the polished wood floors, like she didn't have a company to run or an empire to defend. I used to come here when I needed to disappear, she said, placing her bag down. No staff, no security, just me and the silence. And now you brought me. Now, it's not silence I want anymore. The words landed gently like a confession wrapped in silk. I didn't reply. I just followed her through the house, through the wide kitchen, and out onto the back deck where the ocean stretched out like something we'd never deserve, but could still touch. We spent the first few hours doing nothing, sitting, drinking wine, talking about everything but us. She told me about the first company she ever bought. Age 24, terrified, pretending she wasn't. I told her about my first heartbreak. How the girl didn't even say goodbye, just ghosted me mid-semester. Sloane winced. Some women are cowards. Some women are scared. You can be both. You would know. She didn't argue. That night, we made dinner together, or tried. I burned the garlic. She left. I nearly dropped a pan. She caught it. Then I caught her around the waist, pulling her in, kissing her with flour on my hands and a grin on my face. She kissed me back like she was finally letting herself live. After dinner, we sat on the deck again, wrapped in blankets, the wind playing with her hair. Do you ever think about what happens when the contract ends? I asked. She tensed. Don't. Why not? Because I can't think about losing something I only just started to admit I want. You think you'll lose me eventually. Everyone does. You never had me on paper, Sloane. You had me the moment you kissed me like it was the only honest thing you'd ever done. And that's the problem. Why? Because I want you in ways I don't know how to name. In ways that terrify me. Then name what you can. She looked at me, reached out, brushed hair from my face. I want to wake up with you every day and pretend I'm not scared. I want to make you coffee badly and kiss you while the toast burns. I want to fight over stupid things like throw pillows and grocery lists. I want a life where I don't have to perform to be loved. You already have that. You have me for now, for as long as you choose me. And if I fail, then I'll be here helping you try again. Her eyes filled. She looked away. I've never had someone stay. Then I'll be your first. We slept together that night without urgency. Just skin on skin, breath on breath, like the world had stopped turning for us. In the morning, I woke before her, watched her sleep, vulnerable and still. One hand curled near her cheek, her mouth slightly parted. I kissed her forehead. She stirred. You're staring, she murmured. Can you blame me? I look ridiculous in the morning. You look real. That's worse. No, I whispered. That's everything. We made breakfast barefoot. She let me put on music, something soft, something old, and even let me dance with her in the kitchen. Her hands were awkward at first, then steady, spinning me like she was trying to rewrite time. In the afternoon, we walked the sand. She held my hand in broad daylight, no audience, no press, no performance, just us. In that quiet she whispered, "I love you." I stopped. "Say it again." "I love you." "Since when?" "Since the moment you stopped letting me get away with lying to myself." I kissed her. "Then let's stop lying to each other, to the world, to the contract." "What are you saying?" "I don't want to keep pretending we're just playing house. I want the real thing." She drew a breath. "Then when we go back to the city, we tell everyone. If you're ready." She looked out at the waves. "I want to be." And for the first time, I believed her, not because she promised, but because she showed me what it looks like when someone terrified of love chooses it anyway. Going back to the city felt like waking from a dream I didn't want to leave. The apartment was colder than I remembered, the walls too high, the silence too sharp. Sloane moved through it as she always did. Precise, powerful, distant. But now I knew her softness. I'd seen it, held it, loved it, and I didn't want to pretend anymore. The morning after we returned, she poured 2 coffees and handed me mine without a word. "Are we still doing this?" I asked. She paused. "Doing what?" "Pretending we're still just married on paper. We can't undo what we signed." "That's not what I asked." She didn't look at me. "We'll figure it out." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." I set the coffee down. "Do you regret saying it?" "Saying what?" "That you love me." Her jaw tightened. "No." "Then say it again." "Why do you need to hear it twice?" "Because we're back in your world now, and I don't know who I am to you here." That got her attention. She looked up slowly, carefully. "You're the only thing that makes this place bearable." "Then show me." That week was the hardest we'd had since the beginning. Not because we fought, but because we didn't know how to move forward. The press was everywhere. Questions came in subtle and brutal waves. Is the marriage real? Are they still together? Who is she really? I overheard someone in Sloane's office call me a strategic placeholder, and she didn't correct them. That night I confronted her. "You let them say I don't matter." I didn't respond. "That's the same thing. You want me to shout it from the rooftops? I want you to acknowledge me like I'm real." "You are real," she said to real. "That's the problem." "No. The problem is you're still hiding behind the contract because it's the only thing that kept me safe. Until you." And now she didn't answer. Just looked at me with eyes that said, "I want you, and I don't know how." All at once. I left that night just for a few hours. Walked the city alone. Thought about how stupid it was to fall in love with someone who didn't know how to keep what she begged for. When I came back, she was sitting on the floor of the living room, barefoot, a glass of wine untouched beside her. "I thought you weren't coming back," she said. "I didn't want to." "Why did you?" "Because I still believe in you." She closed her eyes. "Why?" "Because even when you're terrified, you still try. And because I see who you are when the mask comes off. You're the only one who ever has." I sat beside her. "Then stop trying to go back to who you were before me. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be." A long pause. Then she looked at me. "The contract expires in 38 days. I already knew that. I'd been counting silently every morning, and I'm not renewing it." My throat closed. "Okay, because I want to ask you something else instead." I turned. "What?" Her hands trembled as she reached into her blazer pocket. Not a ring, just a folded piece of paper. I opened it. My heart stopped. It was the dissolution clause. Signed, dated, ready to be filed. "Sloane, I want to end the marriage on paper," she said, "so I can ask you again properly, without lawyers, without money, without pretending." "You're asking me to marry you for real?" "I am." I looked down at the paper. "Are you sure?" "No," she said, "but I've never been more willing to be unsure with someone." "That's the most romantic thing you've ever said." "Don't get used to it." I kissed her slow, deep, honest. And when I pulled away, I whispered, Ask me again. She held my hand, met my eyes. Ren Calloway, will you marry me? Yes, again, always. And this time, there was no contract, no lie, just love. We didn't get married in a cathedral. There were no chandeliers, no flower walls, no orchestra playing some overpriced classical piece. It was a Tuesday, sunny, warm. We wore simple dresses. I held her hand. She held mine. No one asked for press coverage. No one drafted statements. This time it was real. I woke up that morning in our bed, the same bed where she once refused to even sleep near me, and found her staring at the ceiling. You okay? I asked, brushing hair from her eyes. I'm terrified, she whispered. Good, I said. So am I, she smiled soft. You still want to do this? Desperately, even if I mess it up sometimes, especially then. Even if I forget how to say the right things. You never forget, I said. You just pretend you don't know how. You're insufferable and you love me more than I know how to explain. The ceremony was small. Just her sister, my best friend, and a judge with no patience for grand declarations. Sloane didn't write vows. Neither did I. We didn't need them. Everything that had to be said was already in the way her thumb stroked mine during the entire thing. In the way her voice didn't even shake when she said, I do. In the way she kissed me. Not for the cameras. Not for the press. Not for the board or a contract or a negotiation. But like she meant it. Like she'd been waiting her whole life to kiss someone without fear. That night we went home. No hotel, no flight, just us. She kicked off her shoes at the door, loosened her hair, and turned to me. Do you feel different? She asked. Not really. Me neither. But I feel better. Same. We ate takeout in bed, drank champagne from mugs. Marigold. Yes. The cat climbed into our laps like she knew something big had happened, and didn't care as long as we didn't move too much. Later, lying on the couch with her head on my chest, Sloane whispered, I used to think love had to be earned, that I had to suffer to deserve it. And now I think love is a decision to choose someone to stay. Even when it's messy, even when you're scared. And you're choosing me every day. Every version of me. The ones I haven't met yet, too. I kissed her. You're soft when you let yourself be. Only with you. Good. We still argued about laundry, about takeout orders, about how many plants I was allowed to bring into the kitchen. But she kissed me every night, held my hand in public, called me wife like it was the most natural word she'd ever learned. Sometimes she'd look at me, pause, and say, You make it easy to believe in forever. And I'd smile and answer, You make it worth it. One night, months later, we sat on the balcony with wine and a sky too full of stars for the city. Remember the first time you offered to marry me? I asked. Barely. I was probably awful. You were cold, arrogant, terrifying, and now still all of that. But now you're mine, and you're not afraid of me anymore. No, you make it too hard to be scared when you're soft in my arms. Don't say things like that, she whispered. Why not? Because I'll do something reckless, like cry. Good. You can be arrogant and emotional. I promise the world won't collapse. She rolled her eyes and kissed me again, and I held her closer, letting myself believe in what we were building, imperfect, but honest. When she said, I'm glad I married you twice, I told her, You're not getting a third. Fine, she smirked. But maybe we adopt a dog to balance the emotional chaos. You are the emotional chaos, and you're the only person insane enough to love it. I laughed. She laughed. The world didn't collapse. We didn't unravel. We stayed not because of a contract, not because of a timeline, not out of need, but because somehow we'd both learned to want the same thing. Always. Thank you so much for your support, whether you're liking, commenting, sharing, or sending your super thanks. You make all the difference here on the channel. See you in the next video. 12 months later, the porch light stays on by habit, not warning. We rent the narrow studio above the Ivy Brick Cafe, where we first decided to sit on the same side of the table. The floors are warped enough to make pens roll and coffee cups hum if you set them down to hard. The window sticks in the summer and shutters in the winter. There's barely room for two desks. One lopsided bookcase, a corkboard, a whiteboard, and the plant Cassandra keeps forgetting to water. When the landlord asked for a business name, I started to say we didn't have one. Cassandra squeezed my hand and said, "Call it whatever comes after. The paperwork says after. Mail arrives addressed to after, sweet to be," which feels like a promise disguised as a punchline. Cassandra leaves the CEO suffix off her emails now. Some mornings I catch her almost typing it and stopping, like a muscle relearning itself. When people ask what she does, she says, "I build with people who tell me the truth." When they ask what I do, I say, "I tell the truth." We consult small teams, messy problems, no cloistered boardrooms. Our rules are taped to the whiteboard in smudged marker. No secrets, no midnight emails, no worship. Nadia swung by once with espresso and a smirk, read the rules, and said, "Good. Try not to make a religion out of each other." We promised to try. We don't always succeed. We tell each other when we stumble. Serena did tell the board. Of course she did. Cassandra had already resigned, but the fallout still moved like weather. Strangers' opinions arrived on our phones like static. A few old colleagues sent messages shaped like condolences. A few sent knives disguised as networking. Cassandra kept her head down, drank tea not whiskey, and met the quiet humiliation of an unclaimed calendar with stubbornness. I learned how to live with someone who is learning how to live with herself. It looked like 100 small things. Her shoes by the door every night. The blanket folded on the couch even when she's late. The cabinet with the mugs always closed because she knows the clang gets under my skin. A note on the fridge in block letters that says I stay on the mornings when she leaves early to run and I wake up reaching anyway. The day my knees stopped clicking on the stairs, we celebrated with takeout on the studio floor. She ate with chopsticks and determination. I watched her try and fail to hold a dumpling delicately, then watched her laugh instead of flinch. Later, when I teased her for killing the plant, she bought to more. "Redundancy," she said. "In case I forget again." She still calls it redundancy. I still call it care. We do not remodel our origin story into something pretty. We keep the scar where it belongs in the timeline, not under the rug. Sometimes it aches. A question at a client kickoff sounds too much like a weapon she once used. An old colleague crosses the cafe and looks at me like a cautionary tale. On those nights, she doesn't fix it. She sits next to me on the couch, palm over my sternum, counting proof. I'm here. Inhale. I'm here. Exhale. Consent turned into a language we speak without thinking. Are you with me? Am I with you? And we learned to mean yes slowly, no gently, later tenderly. We learned that later can be love. Nico still drops groceries. He calls himself our quartermaster and refuses cash when the bags are heavy. He was the first person we told, accidentally, when he arrived to find us painting the studio walls that soft, stubborn white that hides nothing. "So," he said, leaning in the doorway, "we like this version better." We do. We keep office hours, sort of. Round 9. Cassandra shows up with pastry and a look that says she's already solved and unsolved 8 problems in her head. She is terrible at domesticity in a way that charms me more than it should. She measures rice the way she used to measure risk, overthinking, undersalting, insisting on a post-mortem. She leaves water rings on the counter and then writes "wipe the counter" on the whiteboard. Like a quarterly OKR, she is learning to laugh at herself without turning the laugh into a shield. I am learning not to weaponize competence when I'm tired. Some afternoons the studio door is propped open, and the cafe's espresso steam drifts up like weather. Students pile into the seats, shoulders hunched, headphones on. The barista with The pink buzz cut Tamsin brings us the wrong order as a love language. You again, she says, sliding two mugs onto the desk. Tea for her, coffee for you. Or the opposite. It's a test. We pay either way. On the corkboard, we pin client names next to index cards, titled What We Won't Do. It's a list we revise often. We won't sell fear. We won't bury labor. We won't pretend data is a conscience. Cassandra adds one more in thick marker. We won't hide us. I underline it twice. We went back to a gala once. Different venue. Fewer ghosts. They handed Cassandra a microphone and asked for thoughts on leadership. She passed it to me. I said, hire people you cannot control. Love who unmakes your worst instincts. Measure your company by the kindness of the ordinary days. People clapped in that polite way crowds clap when they aren't sure if you're serious. We were. Later, a woman I'd never met pressed my hand and whispered, "Thank you for saying it out loud." Cassandra watched me the way she used to watch a market alert. Reverent, a little terrified. In the car, she said, "Every time you speak like that, something in me unclenches." The next morning, I wrote it on the whiteboard. Under no worship I added, "Do not shrink." Sometimes we fight, not like we used to. No strategic silence, no scorched earth. We argue about the dishwasher and whether batches of communication are more efficient than answering texts as they come. About the proposal I want to submit that she thinks we're not ready for. About the way the world still gives my boundaries another name when I draw them. She apologizes in nouns now, not theater. A glass of water before I ask. A coat draped on my shoulders when I've been too stubborn to admit I'm cold. Her phone face down at dinner without me saying a word. I stop scoring her and start believing her. Slowly, then all at once, then slowly again. On our not anniversary 1 year from the night she knocked at 2:07 a.m. we set an alarm for 7:02 p.m. just to make ourselves laugh. When it chimes, we're in the studio. The sky outside that bruised lilac that means the cafe's neon will buzz on. Soon, she turns off the alarm and says, "Tell me the thing you're still afraid to say." I tell her, "Some days I still wonder if you chose me or a story about yourself you could live with." She nods like it's a prayer she understands by heart. "Both," she says, honest and unarmed. And when I forget the difference, you remind me. It is not the answer I wanted. It is the answer I trust. We dance there, badly, to a playlist called Kitchen Floor that is mostly songs we don't admit we like. She leads and then remembers she doesn't. I follow and then remember I won't. We laugh and switch in step on each other. The plant survives another week. A month later, an offer arrives, the kind of thing that used to make Cassandra's blood sing. Interim chief at a company that thinks fix means consolidate, and innovation means less people, more hours. A number so large it feels like a dare. She sets the letter on the counter like it might bite. I should at least meet them, she says. Old reflex, not new desire. I make tea. Meet them if you want, I say. But if you do, don't pretend you can accept without losing this. She stares at the steam like it can tell the future. For 2 days she carries the letter folded in her pocket like a talisman or a test. On the 3rd day she brings it up to the studio and pins it to the corkboard under What We Won't Do. Then she takes out a red pen and writes across it in block letters, "Nitrogen monoxide." She doesn't look at me when she does it. When she's finished, her hand is shaking. "I wanted you to see me choose," she says. I nod. I did. Closure arrives strangely. One afternoon, work takes us to a building around the corner from the place where my career ended while the elevators kept opening on other floors. The lobby smells the same, citrus cleaner, and money. Cassandra squeezes my hand once. We stand 5 feet from the desk where my ID stopped working and no one looked me in the eye. "Do you want to go up?" she asks. I consider the marble, the light, the mirror that once taught me a new name for small. "No," I say. "I want to walk past. Outside." The air is loud with traffic and possibility. She doesn't say I'm proud of you. She just matches her pace to mine. Spring tilts the window light, and the studio turns into a greenhouse we didn't plan for. The plant forgives us. We host our first tiny salon. 6 people in folding chairs, tea in mismatched mugs. We talk about work as a place where you are allowed to bring your humanity without paying a penalty fee. Someone cries. No one apologizes for it. Cassandra listens more than she speaks. When she does talk, it is with the muscle of someone who has traded power for presence and knows exactly what it cost. After everyone leaves, she sits on the floor and says, "I didn't implode." "No," I say, touching the place where her jaw tightens when she's bracing. "You expanded." Summer brings my sister to visit. Family, the last border. We put fresh sheets on the fold-out, hide the stranger parts of ourselves that still feel like contraband, and practice not rehearsing the conversation. My sister watches us cook together without setting the kitchen on fire, and laughs at how Cassandra narrates every step like a training video. On the second night, after dinner, she takes me onto the porch. "I didn't come here to forgive her," she says without preamble. "I came to check your eyes. Do they pass inspection?" I ask. She doesn't answer. She watches Cassandra through the window, clumsy and reverent with the dishes, and then says, "You look quiet." "That's the point," I say. "It's not loud. It's steady." Can she keep steady? Ask me in 10 years. When we go back in, my sister kisses Cassandra on the cheek and says, "Don't mess this up." Cassandra nods like she deserves the warning. In August, we take a weekend to the coast. The water is petulant and the sand is full of children with plastic kingdoms. We don't post pictures. We collect 3 stones that fit in the palm like punctuation and decide they are commas, not periods, not exclamation points. The cottage smells like salt and lemons and the courage to miss an email. At night, she falls asleep with one arm across my waist like she's counting the tide. In the morning, we walk until the light turns the ocean into foil. "I used to think love meant become smaller so the other person doesn't panic," she says, grinding a stone into the heel of her hand. "I know," I answer. "I used to think love meant become sharper so no one can touch where it hurts." We put the stones in a jar on the studio shelf, next to a postcard from nowhere that reads, "We were here. We kept going." Fall brings a client who reminds me of my former self, precise, exhausted, brittle where it matters. She sits in our studio and cannot stop apologizing for existing. Cassandra listens, then slides a glass of water across the desk and says, "What would change if you stopped being sorry for the fact that you care?" The woman stares at the glass like it's an artifact from a kinder world. Later, after she leaves, I say, "You would have eaten her alive for sport 2 years ago." Cassandra's smile is small and a little broken. "2 years ago I was starving," she says. "Now I'm learning to cook." We eat soup at the desk, feet on the radiator, and read the kind of contracts that used to make me feel hunted. Instead I feel capable, not because I won a title, because I kept my voice. News travels in circles. Articles appear and fade. People who never learned our names learn our story in versions we barely recognize. Once, a reporter emails questions that feel like traps. Did she leave for love? Did you take revenge? We do not answer. Our silence is not shame. It's sovereignty. We go for a walk instead and argue about whether soup is a meal. It is. She slips her hand into my pocket for warmth like that's what pockets were invented for. At the crosswalk, she presses her shoulder into mine and says, "I'm not brave every day." "That's okay," I tell her. "I am on Tuesdays." Winter presses its face to the glass, and we buy a space heater that hums like a lullaby. Cassandra writes holiday cards by hand, 12 of them, each a different apology or invitation or both. To my surprise, she sends one to Serena. "Thank you for telling the truth when I wouldn't. I'm learning." Serena replies with a single line, "Good, keep learning." There is room in my chest where Fury used to live. We return to the cafe where it started, and Tamsin makes a spectacle out of our order because she loves us now and refuses to be subtle. Tea for the reformed dragon, she announces, setting a cup in front of Cassandra. Coffee for the woman who tamed her with boundaries and moral terror. Cassandra bows like royalty. I roll my eyes and tip too much. Serena is there in the corner, reading. She glances up, meets Cassandra's gaze, and nods once like a truce. Not friendship, not yet, but not war either. When we leave, Cassandra exhales like she has been holding the room in her lungs. You okay? I ask. I didn't combust, she says. I thought I might. You didn't. I didn't. Closer to the year mark, closure comes in envelopes. HR finally sends me a letter that says we regret the circumstances. It is sterile and late. I put it in the drawer with the old key cards and the badge lanyard I never threw away, and feel nothing, no quake, no ache. Cassandra watches me slide the drawer shut and says, careful. Do you want a ritual? I want dinner, I say. We go out for noodles and talk about buying a second bookshelf, and whether we could survive assembling it without our therapist on speed dial. We probably could. We would definitely fight about the instructions and then end up laughing on the floor, with an Allen wrench in my hair. On the night that counts 1 year since the knock, I leave the porch light on earlier than usual. I set 2 mugs on the counter, the chipped one for me, the heavy one for her. I take the plant down from the sill and water it with ceremony. At 7:02 p.m., the door rattles. Not a demand, not desperation, just present. I open it. Cassandra stands there in a coat too thin for the wind, cheeks pink, eyes bright with that particular blend of terror and joy that means she's about to say the truth, even if it shakes. May I come in? She asks, because she still asks. Even now, always, I say, because I still answer. She steps out of her shoes without being told, folds the blanket, puts the kettle on. I watch her move through the room like she has earned every right to be in it, and knows she must keep earning it. When the water hums, she turns and leans against the counter. I have something for the whiteboard, she says. I hand her the marker. She writes in careful letters under our rules. Ask before you assume. Rest before you break. Forgive before you forget. Stay before you speak. She caps the marker and looks at me. I don't have a speech, she says. I just have days. As many as you'll let me have. I cross the room and take her face in my hands, thumbs brushing the places where, once, not so long ago, power lived like a mask. Days, I echo. I like days. We don't kiss right away. We make tea. We sit at the table where we have eaten burnt toast and good news and all the ordinary minutes. That saved us. We trade stories we've told before, how the elevator never stopped at my floor, how the letter felt in her pocket like a hot stone, how the cafe smelled like survival, and hear them new because we are not the same narrators. When we do finally touch, it's the kind of certain that comes from repetition, from asking and answering again and again. Are you here? I am. Are you staying? I am. Are we choosing this? Today. Yes. Outside. The porch light throws a small circle on the step. Habit, not warning. For her when she's late. For me when I'm scared. For the version of us that needed a way to see the door. At 7:02 the next morning, a knock sounds through the apartment. It's the delivery guy with our new whiteboard markers. Cassandra laughs from the kitchen and calls, "Coming." I sign, take the box, and when I turn back she is there, barefoot, hair unguarded, holding 2 mugs like an offering. There's no audience, no verdict, no crown. Just tea, the quiet click of a cabinet closing, and the steady work of whatever comes after. Later, in the studio, she pins a tiny envelope to the corkboard. What's that? I ask. Our first client paid us in a handwritten thank you note and a pie, she says. I think we should count both. I smile. Then we're rich. We are. Not the kind we once were, stock options, Sky lobbies, but the kind measured in commas and a jar. In plants that survive. In rules we choose. In a porch light that stays on because now the door isn't a threat. It's an invitation. If someone had told me the woman who wrecked my life would one day fall asleep on my shoulder while the kettle hums, I would have turned the light off in disbelief. Now I leave it on. For her. For me. For anyone who needs to see that there's a way from ruin to room enough. We were here. We kept going. And in the small, ordinary ways that matter most, we are still choosing today, tomorrow, and every quiet minute in between whatever comes after.